Hello, and welcome to the Business of Happiness podcast. Hi, guys. I'm your host, Dr. Tarryn McCarthy, and today's going to be a phenomenal day. I was remembering this morning how there was a time in my life in dentistry when I felt the need to apologize for everything. And that is exactly what we're talking about today. I apologized for my team not showing up on time. You know, if I had a team member that had a flat tire or couldn't make it to work because something happened with their kid, I would apologize for that. I was driving this morning. We had a big snowstorm here in Maine yesterday, and I was thinking about all the women who were bringing their patients and their teams together this morning in the snow and the shoveling, and just remembering the challenge as a business owner and even just as a mom trying to get out the door in the morning on the day after a big snowstorm. And I was remembering how I used to apologize even for the snow. We would close the practice down if there was a big storm, and I would make that decision for the safety of my team and the safety of our patients. And some patients are so stressed out about missing school or missing work, which I totally get. And I used to apologize for canceling days when there was no school. It seemed like there was a time in my life where I apologized for everyone else, even when it wasn't my fault. Because if I'm honest with myself, everything felt like my fault. I remember as an associate, I would apologize for my boss's policy. If there were things that patients would complain about, whether I agreed with the policy or not, I would apologize. I'm so sorry that this is the way we do things. I'm so sorry we don't do clear braces on your bottom teeth. I'm so sorry we don't offer appointments after school for every single one of your appointment times. I'm so sorry. All these really great policies that my boss had put in place, and some of them not great. Some of them I didn't agree with, but I apologized for them all. I apologized for insurance company policies. I apologized even to my patients for telling them that they would need to wear their retainers. I'm sorry to tell you this, but you'll have to wear your retainers the rest of your life. And I know, I'm sorry that this is going to be hard. I apologized as a business owner for any mistakes my team made, for any moments where, maybe there was a team member who gave her 2 weeks notice. I apologized for that, for having too few team members, thinking it was my responsibility as a business owner to ensure that we always had adequate team. And although that is true, there are things that are outside of our control. That day that she quits, I can't magically create a new team member in that instant. And I would apologize. I would apologize for the oral surgeon saying that my patient wasn't ready for surgery. I took everything on as my ultimate responsibility, and I willingly took the blame for everything, even before someone would direct that blame towards me. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to just have this conversation for a moment to bring your awareness to all the times you're apologizing for being late, for things that aren't your mistakes, for things that aren't your responsibility, for things completely outside of your control. And I don't know how our male colleagues feel about the need to apologize. I just know that for myself, what my experience was, and what I hear from all of my women dentist clients, that it's a very common experience to feel the need to apologize, especially in dentistry, whether you are an associate working as an independent contractor, or you are the owner of your practice. We all seem to have this constant talk track of, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I mean, even in our personal lives, apologizing for things that really don't warrant an apology. And today we're going to break down what your over-apologizing is costing you, how that's impacting your financial stability, your dollars and cents, the success of your practice, the success of you as a dentist working in dentistry. I want to talk about how it's impacting your body, your health, your nervous system, your mental and emotional well-being, how it's impacting your energy, how you show up every day. And I want to talk about where it comes from. And then at the end of the episode, I'd love for you to stay listening because I'm going to offer 3 simple steps to start to shift this habit pattern of yours into a more empowered one. And this is not a new concept, right? We've seen memes and stories about stop apologizing. We've seen it over and over, and we've told ourselves, stop apologizing. We even catch ourselves sometimes doing it. We think, oh my gosh, there I go again. And we kind of look at it little, almost anecdotally, like, oh, isn't that funny? Here I go again. But why don't we shift? And I'm going to share with you why it's been so difficult to shift this part of your life and how you can take real action. Because I think many times we hear everything we're doing wrong, everything we can fix in our lives, and then we feel really judgmental of ourselves when we don't. Why do I that's the question we hear, right? Why do I keep apologizing? Even when I know I really don't need to, even when I know it's hurting me and my patient, even when I know it's hurting me and my team, why do I keep apologizing? We start taking it on and think to ourselves, oh, there's something wrong with me because I can't stop apologizing. And I'm going to share with you today why that's happening and how you can actually take back your empowerment in your own life so that you can take action to support yourself with more intention and with less victimization and reaction. Because at the very end of the day, what I care most about for you, dear listener, is how can you feel better? I know I say this at the end of every podcast, when you feel good, you can do good, but I want to just remind you again how critical that is. When you feel good about yourself, you show up differently. And we're going to talk about this in this context of apologizing today. But I want you to just honor that for a moment and why it's so important to take care of your mental and emotional well-being, especially as a healthcare provider, especially as a leader of your team, especially as a mom or a leader in your family. Feeling good, and I mean stable, I mean loving yourself, I mean appreciating and feeling good about every day, is such a critical component of your ability to actually heal others. And I mean your patients. It's such a critical component of your ability to be your best self as a parent. It is such a critical component as a leader. The best leaders out there are the ones who are feeling fully stable in and of themselves. Those are the leaders we want to follow. Those are the leaders we trust. And it actually brings me to this first component of apologizing. And that is when we apologize without being prompted, when we just offer an apology. Let's paint a picture. You're running a little late with your patient care. The schedule is jam-packed. The schedule was not followed. There were some inconsistencies. Things went over. Maybe there were some supplies that you didn't have available to you. Maybe you didn't have the instrumentation that you needed and it took a little longer. Maybe it was just a challenging case, the case before, or a couple patients previous, where it took a little longer than you thought it would. Because guess what, my friends? We are working in human mouths. And we do our very best, based on our experience, to anticipate the length of a procedure. We do our very best to speed up our time, to get better at what we do. And shit happens. That is not your fault. These are human beings that we're working on. So let's just paint this picture that you are running late for your patient. And when you walk in the operatory and the first thing you say is, I am so sorry I'm running late. I'm so sorry I've made you wait. Let's just see immediately the impact that's having on your patient. You know the impact of your confidence on your patient's ability to heal ability to tolerate the procedure, and ability to move forward with the healing and, navigating what needs to happen in their mouths. Picture yourself as a patient for a moment, lying in a chair, very vulnerable position, mouth open. I mean, even myself, as a dentist, I notice my heart rate rising when I'm in the dental chair. And I had never had experienced any dental trauma, but man, it's such a vulnerable position. Now imagine the dentist sitting over you, stressed out, anxious, overwhelmed, running late, apologizing. The first thought you have is, whether you think it consciously or not, it's happening in the back of your mind. This isn't safe. This isn't safe. We are at our best when we can create a position of safety for our patients. I've got you. I know what I'm doing. I have everything under control. That, by the way, is such a huge part of your practice, of getting to a place where that is something you feel in your bones and you believe deep in your heart. So I'm not talking about faking it till you make it. I'm talking about really feeling it. And that, by the way, is in your control. I'm going to give a quick plug here because this is such a critical point in our conversation, is if you're not feeling that as a woman in dentistry, if you don't know how to access that sense of self-belief and self-confidence in what you're doing, you need to come to the Empower Her retreat happening in April, by the way. So this might just be the most important podcast you've been listening to all day. At the Empower Her retreat happening this April in North Carolina, I'm bringing 7 women dentists together. And this is exactly what I'm going to be sharing with you. How to find that sense of self-empowerment, self-confidence, self-belief, self-worth, self-trust in the lens of feeling fulfilled in dentistry. Because they are not separate. They are not separate. That sense of owning and honoring and loving yourself and having the awareness of how to take care of yourself, being willing to have the self-confidence and self-belief to uphold the boundaries that are necessary for you to take care of yourself so that you can show up with extreme conviction. It's not just about you. It's how you be better for your patients and the world around you. So let's go back to that scenario where, so by the way, if you are interested, please go to empowerherretreat.org, empowerherretreat.org, or send me a message at Tarryn at drtarrynmccarthy.com, TARRYN at DrMaccarthy, TarrynMcCarthy.com. You heard me. I'll put the email address in the show notes and the link to the retreat. And if you're not sure if this is right for you, just send me an email and we can chat about it. But what I want to impart on you right now is the importance of you showing up that way to your appointment. So when you show up in this place of apologizing, you immediately create that insecurity in your patient. Immediately. You know that would be true for yourself. If a doctor, a cardiologist walks in the room and you're there for your cardiology appointment or your dermatology appointment, I don't care what it is, and they start apologizing, what is the immediate felt sense you have as a patient? Fear, instability, insecurity, unsure. Not a recipe for healing, not a recipe for calm, not a recipe for confidence. When you apologize, you assume and you admit fault. And let's be honest with yourself. 99% of what you're apologizing for is not in your control. It is such an important component of responsibility as a doctor. Remember, we took an oath to do no harm. When you are apologizing for something that is not your fault, you are causing harm. I know that's a bold statement, but your energetics, by the way, impacts them as well. So assuming fault, assuming blame, assuming that you have anything to apologize for immediately creates that sense of insecurity. It creates doubt and the sense of maybe something is wrong here. Maybe your patient wasn't even aware that you were late. Sometimes they're just sitting on their phones. Sometimes they're actually having a great conversation with the assistant. Sometimes there's actual communication and support happening in the chair. Maybe they're just an overworked, stressed out mom and they're loving this moment of quiet. Let me tell you, that's my favorite part. That's my favorite part of my dental appointments. When I go in for my dental appointments, I'm like, leave me alone. Let me just listen to this music and keep my eyes closed for a moment. And I can just rest and enjoy this moment where there's no demands of me. So imagine they're just enjoying this moment and you walk in and say, I'm so sorry. And they're like, oh my gosh, should I have been worried about something? Oh, maybe I should be concerned that there was something wrong. It's also an extreme time suck for all of you out there who are feeling like there are not enough hours in the day. Imagine this. Every appointment that you walk in and you start saying, I'm sorry, and explaining all the things, my dental assistant had a flat tire, and I'm so sorry, and here we go. Let's say that conversation takes 1 minute. 1 minute of apology. After 10 patients in the day, you've lost 10 minutes of your time to what? Apologizing? Now let's say you see 30 patients a day, which in the ortho world we know is not a lot of patients. That's 30 minutes you could have saved in your day just dropping the apology conversation. Those are 30 minutes of connection you could have created with your patient. I mean real connection, not this false, let me apologize and people please and ask you for your love kind of connection. But I mean, honestly, listening, how are you doing? That could be 30 minutes. You could have gone for a walk around the block in the middle of the day with those 30 minutes. You could have done some breath work in your office and regulated your nervous system for 30 minutes. You could have left the office 30 minutes earlier. Think of the time waste that is happening in apologizing. And now let's go to the energy that you are draining, not of your patient in this example, but for yourself. If every single time you apologize, you imagine taking on the burden of what you're apologizing for, imagine it's like a heavy boulder. You've said sorry for this thing and you've just taken it on. You've picked up a boulder that wasn't yours and now you're carrying it with you energetically. And we wonder why we're so exhausted at the end of the day. Your exhaustion is not from moving your body all day. Our bodies were meant for that. Our bodies were meant to, I can't believe I heard this on a podcast, by the way, that our bodies were meant to walk between 7 and 22 miles a day. You getting up and going operatory to operatory is not what's exhausting you. Your body is strong enough to be able to do that. What's exhausting you is the energetic load that you are picking up voluntarily and carrying around with you every single day. It's draining. It's draining to take on other people's responsibilities, to apologize for everyone and everything outside of yourself that you have no control over. But you've been convincing yourself you should. And right there is the weight of your expectation of yourself. No one would ever expect you to feel responsible for your assistant's flat tire or the oral surgeon saying that your patient's not ready for surgery or the insurance company denying payment on this treatment plan. It's not your fault. And yet we willingly pick up that responsibility and that boulder and throw it over our shoulders and carry it for the rest of the day. And let's also just say this about apologies. It leaves you feeling shitty. Exhausted, yes. And it also just doesn't feel so good. If all day long you're saying, I'm sorry for this, I'm sorry for this, I'm sorry for that, it just leaves you in a place where you feel shitty about yourself. So can we become aware for a moment here? Maybe it's not dentistry that's making you feel shitty. Maybe it's not practice ownership that's making you feel shitty. And is there a little light bulb going off in your mind right now where you realize, oh, wait a minute. I think I have more say over how I feel in my life than I even realized. Oh my gosh. If you just had that awareness, I want to celebrate you. Then this is a really big moment for you right now. You are so much more capable of creating the reality of your dreams than you realize, even in dentistry. Stay with me. Realize for a moment the power you have. If we can just shift this one little habit pattern, how much better you would feel, how much lighter you would feel, how much less responsible for things that are out of your control you would feel. If you didn't walk into every appointment apologizing, if you didn't, in the rest of your life, apologize left, right, and center. I'm going to give, it's so interesting. Last night, I told you we had this big storm. A friend of mine, she's not a very close friend, but we're getting to be friends. She told me that her snow blower broke. Well, my husband and I said, you know what, you can borrow ours. So we loaded our snowblower on the back of his truck, no small feat. It's a big deal to get it up there. Drove over to their house in the snowstorm and gave them the snowblower to use. I mean, what a huge, wonderful thing we did. And we were driving away. We went grocery shopping while we were out. And I came back to the car. I'd left my cell phone in the car. And there were 9 texts from this friend of mine. And she was like, oh my gosh, the shear pin in your snowblower was broken. And my husband had to quickly run out to the store. I'm just letting you know he's going to buy a new shear pin because the shear pin in your snowblower broke. My first instinct was to apologize. So guys, this runs deep. So please honor yourself if you've been trying to shift this behavior pattern. Immediately, I was going to apologize. Here, I was going out of my way to help her, and I was going to apologize that the snowblower I brought over had a missing shear pin. Isn't that so fascinating? How easily we go to apologies? And I caught myself. So this is where I want to share with you the power of awareness. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, maybe you've already known this about yourself and you're beginning to wish that you knew how to shift it. And, like I said, so many people will tell you what you should do, but they don't tell you how. I'm going to share with you how. The very first step is the awareness piece. And even if this is all you do this week, recognize the power of it because we cannot change that which we are not aware of. So just start to listen to yourself and pay attention to the apologies you are making, who you're saying them to, and when there's not at all anything you did to apologize for, where it's really had nothing to do with you and is not your fault. And let's just take one of them, by the way, that I think so many of us think is our fault is the outcome of our treatment. Some of that is your expertise, for sure. And sometimes we make mistakes, and that's human, and we can say sorry for things like that. And these are human bodies. And how often are you apologizing for something that was out of your control? You went into the pulp. Not your fault if that's where the decay went. I'm sorry, we'll need to do a root canal. You do not need to apologize for that. Just start paying attention to the apologies that you are offering so freely. That is step 1. Become aware. I just apologized again for being late for this appointment, even though it was 30 seconds or 2 minutes, or maybe they didn't even care. Or maybe you were going over with a patient who really needed your attention because they were anxious. And what a gift you just gave to that patient. And this does not warrant an apology to the next because you will be just as present for this next patient. Number 2, each time you catch yourself saying sorry, I invite you to start getting into the habit of shifting to saying thank you. What, Tarryn? I know, this is a big moment. Thank you for being patient. While I finished with that last patient, she had a really rough time, and I was just giving her a little extra time to make sure she felt comfortable. Woo! 10 seconds. Thank you. Thank you for understanding that this is the next step in your treatment. Thank you for understanding that we're a little short-staffed today, but I'm here with you now, and I'm going to give you my full attention. Thank you for recognizing that the oral surgeon is really thinking about you and what you need and your best interest. And that's why he said, we're not ready for surgery. We want to make sure that you are perfectly ready before we go into the operating room. We want everything lined up because that is in your best interest and how this case is going to move forward and you are going to heal. Thank you for understanding. Thank you for being patient. Thank you for recognizing some beautiful, easy statements. So I'm offering you this little switch, this little shift in your language. And as soon as you hear yourself say, I'm so sorry, start saying, thank you. Thank you for your patience. And think about how good that feels. Because now you're giving the patient an option to choose. Am I going to be angry or am I going to be grateful? Am I going to be so pleased with myself that I could choose patience? We're giving them an opportunity to rise to their higher selves because sometimes they're not aware. We can't expect our patients to be more aware than we are of their own selves. That's actually our responsibility. They are our patients. Same thing for our team. Thank you for being patient with me. Thank you for being patient with the system. Thank you for recognizing. Every time you want to say, I'm sorry, switch to thank you. And then here's the third step. And this is the one that not many people understand because it's not only about mindset and thoughts. It is about your body. And this is where the business of happiness stands resolutely different from all other coaches in the dental space. And I will die on the sword for this. Your body is not separate from your mind. Descartes was wrong. We are not separating mind-body. They are one. And if we continue to ignore the body and its impact on our mind, we are missing out big time. So recognize your body is going to fight back. Because for decades, you have been apologizing, and that has been your way of staying safe, of garnering favor, of asking for forgiveness, of asking for someone to love you despite what just happened, of protecting yourself, and it has got to stop. But your body is going to go into extreme defensiveness and resistance. And that is where you get to become aware of your body. So step 1 was aware of your thoughts and your words. Step 2 was switching to thank you. And step 3 is becoming super aware of your body. Oh my gosh, my heart rate is through the roof right now as I'm saying thank you. When I really want to say I'm sorry, it feels so weird and outrageous. And I want you to recognize the moment it happens, you get to breathe. Because all that's happening is your body's going into fight or flight. And you get to bring your body back to calm. So take in a nice, delicious, deep breath in through your nose. Hold it and exhale. And you can even throw in a little bit of love. And I'm so proud of you, Tarryn, for saying thank you and empowering your patient and empowering yourself so that this whole situation is turned for the better. So we're actually empowering the moment. You just did a great job. Literally feeding yourself that support. Recognizing when your body is going into fight or flight because you're doing something that your body's not used to doing. You're taking a new action and saying thank you instead of sorry, and then loving yourself for it. But it requires actively regulating your nervous system, and we do so most readily with breath. Deep breath in. Hold it and exhale. And then, oh my gosh, good job. You just switched that behavior pattern. I honor you. Regulating your body. It's going to be difficult. This shift is change. But intellectually, you understand why it's so important. And it is going to amaze you how much better you feel. If this is the only thing you change in your life, you are going to be blown away with how much better you feel, how much more fulfilled you feel at the end of the day, how much better you feel about dentistry and life and yourself. It's going to change everything for you, this little small shift. So I'm excited because I would love for you to start incorporating this into your practice. And then please let me know. Talk to me. Tell me about it. Tell me what changes for you. Use this intentionally every single day, and then tell me what shifts for you in your life. Because what I know is that when you feel good, that is when you really start doing good. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Business of Happiness podcast. If this episode brought you new perspective and value, I invite you to subscribe so that you catch all upcoming episodes and leave us a review. And if you know of a friend or colleague who could benefit from this perspective, share this episode with them and empower their day. For more information about the Business of Happiness and the Radical Happiness for Practitioners course, find me on www.thebizofhappiness.com. See you there.